Hello everyone. Today we come together to look back on the lives of the artists who have just recently passed away. Those who touched the hearts of the public with their talent, dedication, and lasting marks on popular culture. This is a moment for us to remember and honor the enduring contributions they have left over the years. If you value memorial content like this, please support the channel by liking and subscribing. Thank you for being with us. Now let us begin. Veteran actor Robert Duvall, the star of the Godfather film series, passed away on February 15, 2026, at his home in Middleburg, Virginia, at the age of 95. The information was confirmed by his family to NBC News and reported by multiple American media outlets. Relatives said he passed away peacefully due to old age and declining health, surrounded by his family. Robert Duvall was born on January 5, 1931, in San Diego, California, into a family with a military tradition. After serving in the United States Army, he studied acting at the Neighborhood Playhouse in New York, alongside Dustin Hoffman and Gene Hackman. His first notable role was Boo Radley in To Kill a Mockingbird in 1962, a character with few lines but a deeply lasting impression. His career breakthrough came in the 1970s when he played attorney Tom Hagen in The Godfather and its sequel, where the calm advisor of the Corleone family earned him an Academy Award nomination and established him as a prominent face of Hollywood. In 1979, he continued to make his mark with the role of Lieutenant Colonel Kilgore in Apocalypse Now. The peak of his career came in 1984 when he won the Academy Award for Best Actor for the film Tender Mercies. Over more than 6 decades of activity, Robert Duvall received many prestigious awards, including an Oscar and an Emmy. He was highly regarded by critics for his versatile transformations and his composed acting style. For many audiences, he was a representative image of 20th century American cinema. Robert Duvall's passing closes an important chapter of Hollywood, but his roles continue to live on in the public memory. Actor James Van Der Beek, the star of the television series Dawson's Creek, passed away at the age of 49 on February 11, 2026, after a period of battling stage 3 colorectal cancer. The information was confirmed by his wife, Kimberly Van Der Beek, on Instagram the same day, and was reported by People magazine. The family said he passed away peacefully, surrounded by the love of those close to him. James Van Der Beek was born in 1977 in Connecticut, USA, and he pursued acting from his teenage years and participated in stage theatre before transitioning to television and film. His career breakthrough came in the late 1990s when he took on the role of Dawson Leary in Dawson's Creek. The series ran for 6 seasons, becoming one of the most influential teen productions of that period and bringing his name to audiences worldwide. After his initial success, he continued to participate in many projects such as Varsity Blues or Rules of Attraction, How I Met Your Mother, and most recently, Sideline 2, Intercepted, released in 2025. In addition to acting, he appeared on many television programs, including Today in late 2025, at which time he shared that his health condition had shown positive progress. Regarding his personal life, James Van Der Beek married actress Heather McComb in 2003 before starting a family with Kimberly Van Der Beek in 2010. But he was the father of 6 children and often shared about his role as a father as the most important part of his life. His passing closes an artistic journey spanning nearly 3 decades. For many audiences, he is a face associated with the youthful memories of a generation. James Van Der Beek leaves a lasting mark on American television and in the affection of the public. Actor Eric Dane, a familiar face from the series Euphoria and Grey's Anatomy, passed away at the age of 54 on February 19, 2026, after nearly a year since discovering an illness related to neurological issues. The information was confirmed by his representative and announced by the family in the American media. According to the statement, he passed away after a period of battling amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS, a neurodegenerative disease that has no definitive cure. In a statement sent to the press, the family said, "During his journey battling the illness, Eric actively raised awareness about ALS. Eric cherished his fans and was always grateful for the affection and support he received. The family asks for respect for their privacy during this difficult time." Before his health declined, he was still participating in filming season 3 of Euphoria. Eric Dane was born in 1972 in San Francisco, USA, and he previously served in the Navy and worked in architecture and interior design before coming to acting. His first role was Joe Keller in the play All My Sons. After that, he appeared in television series such as Saved by the Bell, The Wonder Years, Roseanne, and Married with Children. His first feature film was The Basket in 2000. The turning point of his career came in 2006, when he joined Season 2 of Grey's Anatomy in the role of Dr. Mark Sloan. The character quickly became beloved by audiences and became a main role throughout many seasons. He continued to leave his mark with The Last Ship, Burlesque, Valentine's Day, Marley and Me, and especially the role of Cal Jacobs in Euphoria. Eric Dane married actress Rebecca Gayheart in 2004 and had 2 daughters. His passing leaves a void in the hearts of colleagues and fans. He is remembered as a resilient, dedicated artist who always cherished the audience who accompanied him. Actor Bud Cort, the icon of the classic film Harold and Maude, passed away on February 11, 2026, in Connecticut at the age of 77. The information was confirmed by his representative to American media, stating that he died due to complications from pneumonia after a long period of medical treatment. His passing closes an artistic journey that lasted more than 5 decades in American film and television. Bud Cort, whose real name was Walter Edward Cox, was born on March 29, 1948 in Rye, to New York. He began his acting career in the late 1960s and was soon noticed by director Robert Altman. In 1970, he participated in 2 of Altman's projects, MASH and Brewster McCloud, marking the first steps in his film career. In 1971, Bud Cort took on the role of Harold Chazen in Harold and Maude. The work initially did not achieve commercial success, but gradually became a cult film with wide-ranging influence. The role earned him nominations for the Golden Globe and BAFTA, and firmly marked his name in American film history. The image of Harold with his distinctive personality became part of the cultural memory of many generations of audiences. In the years that followed, Bud Cort continued to appear in many works, such as Electric Dreams, Heat, Dogma, Coyote Ugly, Pollock, and The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. He also participated in voice acting for well-known animated series, expanding his presence into the field of television. Bud Cort was not a noisy Hollywood star, but he was highly regarded by colleagues for his dedication and distinctive acting style. The role of Harold is still considered a symbol of American independent cinema. He leaves behind a lasting legacy in the hearts of audiences and in the history of the screen. Actor Robert Carradine, a familiar face in the series Lizzie McGuire, passed away on February 23, 2026, at the age of 71. The information was confirmed by his family to U.S. media, including Page 6 and several major news outlets. According to the announcement, he passed after a long period of struggling with depression, an illness he had been quietly receiving treatment for over many years. Robert Reed Carradine was born in 1954 in Los Angeles, ties into a family with a long-standing artistic tradition. He was the son of veteran actor John Carradine and the brother of Keith and David Carradine. Entering the film industry in the early 1970s, he soon appeared in The Cowboys and Mean Streets. His name became widely known with the role of Louis Skolnick in the comedy series Revenge of the Nerds in the 1980s, a work considered iconic within the American youth film genre. For a younger generation of audiences, Robert Carradine was closely associated with the image of Sam McGuire, the kind father in the Disney Channel series Lizzie McGuire, which aired from 2001 to 2004. The role brought him particular affection from global viewers. He appeared with a calm and approachable demeanor, creating the image of a warm father on the small screen. Over a career spanning more than 5 decades, Robert Carradine participated in dozens of film and television projects. Colleagues regarded him as a dedicated artist with a persistent work ethic. For many people, he was not only an actor, but also a part of childhood memories. The passing of Robert Carradine leaves deep sorrow, but his performances will continue to be remembered for many years to come. Michael J. Fox was born on June 9, 1961, in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, a wide prairie city with wind blowing straight through its streets and winters lasting longer than people expect. No studio lights, no red carpets, no sign whatsoever that the boy would one day become a familiar face in millions of households. He was the 4th of 5 children. His father, William Fox, was a police officer who carried military discipline into everyday life. His mother, Phyllis Fox, had worked in payroll, a precise, meticulous, steady. Their family was not wealthy. They had no influence, no connections in the entertainment industry, no shortcut waiting ahead. What filled that house was something simpler: dedication, tireless discipline, and a quiet kind of resilience. Michael's childhood was not rooted in any single place. Because of his father's work, the family moved many times before they could settle anywhere. Eventually, they made their home in Burnaby, British Columbia. And for many children, constantly leaving a school, a neighborhood, a group of friends can leave an emptiness that is hard to name. For Michael, it created a different reflex: the ability to walk into an unfamiliar room and not be swallowed by silence. He learned to read eyes, to catch the rhythm of the person in front of him, to find the right moment for laughter. He did not wait to be welcomed. He created connection himself. He was smaller than most children his age, often the shortest in the group. But height did not define his presence. Michael carried a natural confidence, a sense of humor that was almost instinctive. The smile came quickly. The line landed cleanly. His energy had something restless about it, almost electric, as if his thoughts were always running half a beat ahead of his body. People noticed that boy not because he was loud, but because there was a spark that made others want to stand a little closer. E-School was not the place that could contain all of his imagination. Michael was intelligent, quick in a way that was not always reflected on report cards. The classroom, with its structure and fixed pace, sometimes felt too narrow for a mind that always wanted to move. What truly awakened him was the moment of standing in front of others, when a gesture, a pause, a tone of voice could change the atmosphere in a room. That feeling came early and clearly, and his family remembers a boy who was always in character, always looking for a way to turn an ordinary evening into a small performance. If there was a stage, Michael stepped onto it. If there wasn't, he created one. No exaggeration, no need for a large audience, just a very real need to tell a story with his own body. In a house without influence and without any promise of privilege, an idea gradually took shape, not a vague dream, not a child's passing remark. As a teenager in Burnaby, But Michael said it with the calm certainty of someone who had thought it through. He would become an actor. Not if, not someday, just a decision. Behind that decision was the discipline of a father who was a police officer and the meticulousness of a mother who worked in payroll. No one in the house knew how the entertainment world operated, but they understood work, understood responsibility, understood that every path worth taking must be paid for with time and patience. Michael Andrew Fox grew up that way. Not in bright lights, but in steadiness, not guaranteed a future, but taught how to stand firm. And before the world knew the name Michael J. Fox, there was already a boy from the Canadian prairie learning how to walk into unfamiliar rooms and make himself belong there. Michael J. Fox did not wait until adulthood to know what he wanted. As a teenager in Burnaby, British Columbia, while most of his friends were still feeling their way through vague choices, he said it decisively. He would become an actor, not a dream hanging in the air, not a statement made to test the reaction of adults, a decision. A childhood in constant motion because of his father's job trained in him a particular reflex, to step into unfamiliar places without shrinking back. He could read a room. He could sense the breathing rhythm of the person in front of him. And he knew how to change the atmosphere with a well-timed remark. Performing, for Michael, did not begin on a professional stage. It began in ordinary moments, the family dinner table, the classroom, small gatherings, where he naturally transformed, naturally guided attention. The feeling of standing before others, creating rhythm with voice and gesture, came to him more as instinct than effort. And his father, William Fox, believed in steady work and reliable paths. The entertainment world, with all its uncertainty, was not an easy choice to accept, but Michael was not easily swayed from what he believed was meant for him. He did not argue loudly. He remained steadfast. At age 15, his first professional opportunity appeared, the role of Jaime in the Canadian television series Leo and Me. There was no red carpet, no major newspaper headlines, modest production, a small role, a limited audience. But for Michael, it mattered more than the lights, a confirmation. A signal from outside the family that his instinct was not imagination. He could do it. During that formative period, he also adjusted his professional name. Michael Andrew Fox became Michael J. Fox. The J was added to honor character actor Michael J. Pollard and to avoid a name that sounded too ordinary to be remembered. A small decision, but it showed that he understood very early on that in a crowded industry, distinction sometimes begins with detail. Not long after, while still very young, Michael made a choice that would redraw the entire map of his life. He left Canada, left his family, left the familiar horizons of British Columbia. At 18 years old, standing only 5'4" with little money, almost no connections, and only a few acting credits that carried little weight in a city full of young talent, he headed south, Los Angeles. Los Angeles in the late 1970s was both a promise and a test. For every name that lit up on a marquee, thousands of others waited in silence. They waited tables, parked cars, rehearsed lines in cramped apartments, called agents from payphones, telling themselves that tomorrow might be different. Michael arrived there and learned very quickly an uncomfortable truth. Talent guarantees nothing, charm guarantees nothing, determination guarantees nothing. While this industry operates coldly like the tide, vast and indifferent, he struggled. There were months of scarcity, a refrigerator nearly empty, quiet calculations between rent and groceries, auditions that ended with a polite nod followed by prolonged silence, promised callbacks that never came. Doubt appeared, the way it often finds young people who wager too much on a fragile dream. But Michael J. Fox did not leave. He stayed. He took whatever roles he could and made scattered appearances on television, treating each appearance as a small step forward. Around the age of 20, Los Angeles finally gave him something that was not yet victory, but a foothold, a fragile position on the slope of a career. 2 years of grinding through audition rooms did not disappear. They settled, becoming foundation. Michael J. Fox entered the 1980s not in the posture of a star, but with the patience of an actor accustomed to waiting. And then, in September 1982, a television project that premiered on NBC changed his position in the eyes of America, Family Ties. The series was created by Gary David Goldberg, built on an idea that seemed simple, but clearly reflected the shift of the era. A family shaped by the progressive ideals of the 1960s, now raising children in the sharp, pragmatic, success-driven climate of the 1980s. The parents, Stephen and Elise Keaton, represented intellect, warmth, and progressive belief. They believed in community, in dialogue, in the values that had shaped them in their youth. But their eldest son did not. Michael's character, Alex P. Keaton, was written as a deliberate opposition. On paper, Alex was a serious young capitalist, an admirer of Ronald Reagan and Milton Friedman. He's speaking about stock portfolios with the formality of a seasoned broker. He wore suits like armor, walked with sharp confidence, and argued back at his parents with economic reasoning rather than emotion. Alex was created as satire, to generate humor from ideological contrast. No one, not even the creative team, predicted that the character would evolve beyond its original intention. What created that transformation did not lie entirely in the script. It lay in the way Michael J. Fox approached the character. He did not merely portray Alex's sharpness and confidence. Beneath the layers of economic arguments and youthful ambition, he found something deeply human, the desire to be recognized, the fragility of a young man trying to prove his worth in a world changing too quickly. He revealed moments of vulnerability, a lowered gaze, a pause before responding, a smile that did not fully conceal anxiety. The audience recognized it almost immediately. Letters sent to the network increased. Ratings not only stabilized but climbed steadily. Family Ties gradually became one of the television programs that defined an entire decade, and at its center was a young Canadian actor standing 5'4", with rapid dialogue delivery and the ability to make viewers both laugh and reconsider. When the series premiered, Michael was 21 years old. At an age when many actors were still searching for their footing, but he had already become a familiar face in the living rooms of millions of American families. Just a few years later, at 23, that face ranked among the most recognizable on television. Teenagers put his photos on their bedroom walls. Magazines placed him on their covers. The attention was no longer scattered, it was concentrated, dense. Fame arrived quickly, but it did not change the way he appeared before the camera. Michael maintained a restrained performance rhythm, kept clarity in his gaze. He did not push Alex into becoming a political symbol. He kept the character at a human level, sharp, flawed, and likable in a way that was difficult to explain. Family Ties did not only give him national recognition, it placed him at the center of a broader cultural conversation about values, generations, and ambition. And more importantly, it proved that Michael J. Fox's appeal did not come solely from quick comedic timing, but from the ability to find the heart within a character written to provoke debate. As the 1980s continued to unfold, television had given him a solid position. But just as his small-screen fame had not yet settled into a familiar rhythm, another script, bigger, bolder, was waiting ahead. Cinema was about to call his name. And this time, the price would not be measured only in time. In the summer of 1985, audiences lined up outside movie theaters across the United States. A DeLorean sped across the screen, light flashed, and in that moment, popular cinema shifted into a different rhythm. At the center of that movement was a familiar face from television, young, quick-witted, and seemingly unfazed by a workload that exceeded ordinary limits. When Back to the Future premiered on July 3, 1985, few people saw what the preceding weeks had looked like. By day, he stood under the lights of Family Ties, embodying Alex P. Keaton with precise delivery and undiminished energy. By night, he crossed Los Angeles to become Marty McFly, a teenager caught between timelines, racing against paradox and responsibilities beyond his age. Filming schedules stretched until dawn. Sleep was cut into fragments, and then the cycle repeated. The screenplay by Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale had been rejected 44 times before Universal Pictures agreed to produce it. Had the story of a time machine disguised as a DeLorean, of the scientist Doc Brown, and an ordinary teenager forced to repair his own family's past, seemed too unusual for Hollywood at the time. The lead role was even initially given to Eric Stoltz, and production had already begun. But over time, the team realized the film needed a different rhythm, a blend of comedic instinct, physical agility, and a charm that would make audiences believe in the character no matter how implausible the story. But when the opportunity finally opened, it did not come with favorable conditions. The television contract did not allow flexibility. The only solution was to layer two worlds onto the same body. The production budget was approximately $19 million. As a result, it grossed nearly $400 million worldwide and held the #1 position in the United States for 11 consecutive weeks. Those figures were quickly recognized as evidence of a phenomenon. But commercial success was only part of the story. More notable was the way the character Marty McFly was portrayed, not as a superhuman icon, but as an awkward young man who responded with both confusion and courage. His comedic rhythm did not overshadow the emotion. It kept the film grounded with a heart. The success of the first installment led to Back to the Future Part 2 and Back to the Future Part 3, filmed in an extended production period, forming one of the most frequently discussed trilogies of popular cinema. Upon turning 24, he simultaneously stood at two peaks, primetime television and the international box office. His image appeared densely on magazine covers. Crowds recognized him on the street. The attention was no longer scattered. It became a constant pressure. But behind that light was discipline. Mornings that began before the city had awakened, and nights that ended when many others were already asleep. 2 sets, a grueling schedule. And the summer of 1985 marked the moment when a young actor not only became a star, but also became part of collective memory. In the late 1980s, the lights seemed never to turn off. After the explosion of the summer of 1985, the momentum did not slow down. It accelerated. A name that had just stood at the top of the box office, while also dominating primetime television, now continued to appear with dense frequency, yet without repeating itself. In that same year, 1985, alongside Back to the Future, he took part in Teen Wolf, a supernatural comedy revolving around a high school student who discovers he is a werewolf. The project was initially not regarded as a major box office contender. The story carried a tone of simple entertainment, even somewhat risky. But the film succeeded, not only because of its unusual premise, but because the central character was kept at a human level, awkward, self-conscious, longing to be accepted. His presence created an emotional anchor for a story that could easily have slipped into exaggeration. At this point, fame was no longer a possibility. It was a reality. In 1986, Keaty won his first Emmy Award for Outstanding Lead Actor in a comedy series for the role of Alex P. Keaton in Family Ties. This was the first of 5 Emmy nominations for that role. Golden Globe was also awarded as confirmation that his television success was not based solely on temporary affection. Amid applause and magazine covers, he maintained a steady working rhythm without flamboyance, without changing his approach to the role. In 1987, The Secret of My Success was released. The film tells the story of an ambitious young man seeking advancement within the maze of American corporate life. It became a box office hit, further reinforcing the perception within the filmmaking community that his name carried commercial value. Audiences came to the theater for the story, but they stayed for the character portrayed with a familiar rhythm, quick, intelligent, yet never detached from humanity, as it was precisely at that moment considered safe that he chose to change direction. In 1988, with Bright Lights, Big City, adapted from the novel by Jay McInerney, he stepped into a heavier role. The character was a fact-checker in Manhattan, immersed in grief, disorientation, and the harsh rhythm of nightlife. There were no longer humorous lines to guide the audience's pace, no longer the protective layer of laughter. This was an intentional risk, a move to expand his professional range. As the critical response was mixed, some were skeptical, some appreciated the commitment, but all acknowledged one thing: he refused to be confined to a mold. Earlier success did not lead him to choose the easier path. Also in 1988, another major workload began, filming Back to the Future. Part 2 and Back to the Future Part 3 back-to-back. The project demanded sustained focus and technical precision. He had to portray multiple versions of Marty McFly across different time periods, interact with himself using split-screen techniques, and maintain the emotional arc throughout the entire trilogy. What audiences saw was natural flexibility. What unfolded behind the scenes was strict discipline. The ease on screen was in fact the result of continuous intensity of work. In just a few short years, he achieved what many actors pursue for a lifetime: to be both a television icon and a film phenomenon, to have both awards and box office revenue. On that level of fame carried its own gravitational pull, but it also quietly bent the rhythm of everyday life. Walking anonymously on the street became difficult. Private moments gradually grew rare. Yet amid that continuous upward momentum, a question began to form. Not loudly, not dramatically. After the premieres and the applause, what was the foundation that kept everything in balance? The answer did not lie in revenue or awards. It began with a meeting on a film set, and where his personal story was about to enter another chapter, quieter but more enduring. Amid the premiere lights and the applause at the end of the 1980s, another story was taking shape. Quieter, more enduring, and not in need of a stage. On the set of Family Ties, when Tracy Pollan was cast as Ellen Reed in seasons 3 and 4, the chemistry between them appeared almost naturally. On screen, it was a rhythm of dialogue that was sharp, yet gentle. Off-screen, it was two young people recognizing in each other a point of balance. Tracy had a calm steadiness. He carried quick, a sharp energy. That difference did not create distance, it created attraction. When Tracy's storyline concluded, she left the series. Work carried each of them in different directions. His career continued to accelerate in film and television. Dense shooting schedules, continuous travel, distance intervened. But that connection did not fade. They met again through mutual friends, no longer a script, no direction from a director. Only two people looking directly at each other, in this time with greater clarity. On July 16, 1988, they married in an intimate ceremony in Vermont. He was 27 years old. She was 28 years old. Not a lavish event. Not a performance before the public. Simply a private decision amid the whirlwind of fame at its peak. In May 1989, their first son, Sam Michael Fox, was born. Becoming a father did not turn him into a different person. It deepened what was already there. He was present, not only in memorable moments, but in ordinary hours, i.e. in repetitive tasks. For him, devotion did not lie in declarations, but in showing up consistently. Parallel to family life, his career continued to expand. In 1989, he appeared in Casualties of War, the film directed by Brian De Palma, playing a soldier confronting moral conflict in the context of the Vietnam War. It was a heavy role, with little room for humor. He was not seeking comfort from the audience, he was seeking depth. By 1991, he starred alongside James Woods in The Hard Way, a buddy cop film blending action and comedy that achieved steady box office returns. In the same year, he took on the leading role in Doc Hollywood, the story of a talented young doctor stranded in a small town. The film was moderately successful, continuing to demonstrate his flexibility across genres. From the outside, the picture appeared complete, a young family, steady projects, a reputation that had not diminished. But it was precisely during this period that a small detail emerged, almost insignificant. While filming Doc Hollywood in Gainesville, Florida, he woke up one morning and noticed a slight tremor in the little finger of his left hand. Very small. It could have been fatigue. It could have been stress. It could have been coffee that was too strong. He ignored it. The shooting schedule did not wait for vague doubts. But the tremor did not disappear. It returned. Quietly. Then came other subtle changes, stiffer muscles, slightly slower movement, coordination no longer as precise as before. Things only the person experiencing them would notice. On set, no one saw a difference. The audience still saw the same familiar rhythm of performance. But beneath that steady surface, another movement had begun. Quietly, without warning, and it would soon force him to confront a reality beyond the lights of film and television. In 1991, at the age of 30, a medical conclusion closed the ambiguity of the earlier small signs and opened an entirely different reality. Early onset Parkinson's, a progressive neurological disorder that affects movement, and according to the understanding at that time, had no cure. He was one of the youngest people to receive this diagnosis. 1 year earlier, in 1990, his father, William Fox, passed away when he was 29 years old. All that loss had not yet settled when the news of illness arrived. There were no cameras in the examination room, no audience, only the silence after the doctor's words and a lingering question about the future. For 7 years he kept his diagnosis private. Only Tracy and a small circle of close confidants knew. Public life and private reality began to separate into 2 layers. On screen, he remained sharp, still maintaining precise timing in dialogue and abundant energy. Off-screen, he learned to monitor every small change in his body, a tremor, a stiffness, a slight slowing in movement. Medication helped control the symptoms to some extent. On set, he developed very specific strategies, keeping his left hand in his pocket, incorporating unintentional movements into the character's actions, using physical motion to mask the tremor. To some degree, he was not only acting the role he had been given, he was acting the role of a healthy person, in doing so with professional discipline. In 1996, he took on the role of the deputy mayor of New York in the series Spin City. The character was sharp, quick-witted and energetic, aligned with his familiar public image. The show was successful and he won a Golden Globe for this role. Audiences saw confidence and charm. They did not see the mornings when his body stiffened, the small adjustments required to maintain the pace of work. His family continued to grow during that period, but in 1995, the twins Aquina and Skylar were born. In 2001, the youngest daughter, Smee, was born. The 4 children grew up in a household where laughter and discipline coexisted. He admitted many times that his children were the reason he kept going, even on days when the simplest tasks required more strength than before. By 1998, he decided to make the truth public. In an interview with People magazine, he revealed that he was living with Parkinson's. No drama, no self-pity, just the clarity of a man who had carried that secret for 7 years and no longer wanted to keep his life divided in two. The public reaction was not distance. They moved closer. Admiration shifted from the roles to the person. He was no longer seen only as the actor of beloved characters, but as someone facing a major challenge with candor and calm. The years that followed did not move in a straight line. Parkinson's progressed unpredictably. There were periods of stability, and periods that were more severe. He acknowledged the slow mornings, the flashes of anger at the unfairness, the moments of sadness when his body no longer responded as it once had. But he also held on to what was essential: relationships, humor, the ability to find joy within the remaining limits. In 2018, another challenge emerged when he had surgery to remove a spinal cord tumor. During recovery, he fell and broke his arm, requiring another surgery and many months of rehabilitation. His body continued to set new limits. He did not deny that, he accepted it as part of reality. From a diagnosis kept private for 7 years to the decision to speak before millions, that journey was not told through loud climaxes. It was recorded through quiet perseverance. And from that point, his fame began to shift a direction, no longer only a foundation for his career, but gradually becoming a tool for a broader purpose. In 2000, nearly a decade after the 1991 diagnosis and 2 years after publicly disclosing the illness, a structural decision was made: the establishment of the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's Research. Not a symbolic act, a system, an organization with a specific goal: to accelerate the search for a cure for Parkinson's, and while waiting, to improve the daily lives of those living with this disease. From a small office with a few people and a vision larger than its initial resources, the foundation quickly grew into one of the most influential patient-led research organizations in the world. The funds raised increased steadily over the years, hundreds of millions of dollars, then surpassing $1 billion in the early 2000s, as noted in the original article. Those figures translated into multi-continental research programs, funding clinical trials, promoting collaboration among scientists, and shortening the gap between the laboratory and practical application. He testified before committees of the United States Congress, not in the role of a celebrity seeking attention, but as a patient demanding progress. He spoke at universities, medical schools, and international conferences. The fame that once placed him on magazine covers now became a tool: directed, purposeful. Although shifting his focus toward advocacy and research, he did not completely leave acting. He completed Spin City, and when he stepped onto the stage to accept the award, the standing ovations at the Emmy carried meaning beyond a professional victory. It was recognition for both the artistry and the endurance behind it. After that came a guest role in The Good Wife, where he portrayed a brilliant yet morally ambiguous lawyer who was also living with Parkinson's. This role allowed him to bring his real-life experience into fiction, and not to evoke sympathy but to broaden the way mainstream television portrays illness and disability. During the period 2013 to 2014, He participated in the Michael J. Fox Show, a semi-autobiographical series in which he played a news anchor returning to work after a diagnosis. This time, the tremor was not entirely concealed. It was integrated into the character. The presence of the illness was no longer something to be hidden, but a part of the story. Alongside the screen, he wrote, Unlucky Man, 2002, was his first memoir, recounting the journey before and after the diagnosis. Always Looking Up, 2009, continued to discuss optimism and life after publicly disclosing the illness. By No Time Like the Future, 2020, the tone became more reflective, more direct in confronting questions of aging, limitation, and acceptance. In recent years, Parkinson's has progressed more clearly. The tremor is stronger, balance is weaker, falls occur more frequently. Everyday activities require greater concentration than before. He gradually stepped away from acting due to increasing physical demands. He does not call that surrender, he calls it clarity, recognizing his limits without denying the value of what he has done. Tracy remains by his side after more than 3 decades of marriage. Their 4 children have grown up, each following their own path. That family exists alongside fame and illness, a stable structure amid fluctuations, while the legacy left behind can be seen in 3 layers. Cultural legacy. Characters such as Marty McFly and Alex P. Keaton continue to live in collective memory across generations. Scientific legacy, a foundation that has changed the scale and pace of Parkinson's research globally. And human legacy, the way he faces adversity not through denial or display, but through candor and perseverance. From June 9, 1961, in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, to the years after the stage lights have dimmed, that story is not measured by isolated peaks. It is measured by the way he adjusted when circumstances changed, and by the way he transformed personal challenge into a collective effort beyond the scope of an entertainment career.